Hi, I'm Christy and this is Lazy Owl Booktube channel. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book Freakout tag, and I was tagged by Christy Lewis at Dostoevsky in space. I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly. So thank you so much for the tag, and I'll leave a link to Christy's YouTube channel below if you want to check her out. And I've been really enjoying watching all the other booktubers doing this particular tag. It's such a fun tag, and I had been intending to get to this at some point, so thanks for the push, Christy. This has pushed me to get this tag done, and hopefully I'll come up with some interesting answers, and yeah, it's just a bit of fun. So the first question is, best book you've read so far in 2020? So I would have to say probably I've been doing the Storm Along 2020, and I have read part 1 of The Way of Kings, and I would have to say that would be one of my favourite books this year that I have read. I really enjoyed it. Definitely probably an easy answer, that one. I also wanted to feature some comics as well, because if you follow my channel you know that I'm really into comics. So some of these answers I'll do my comic answers as well. So the best comic that I have read this year would definitely be Something Is Killing the Children, Volume 1. I actually got that one on NetGalley and I absolutely loved it. I loved the artwork, I loved the storyline and the dialogue in that particular comic, and I really want to get a copy for myself, and also really looking forward to reading on to Volume 2, because I understand that I'm not sure if it's come out or it's coming out soon, so I really want to get to that. So Way of Kings Part 1 is my favourite novel, and Something Is Killing the Children Volume 1 favourite comic for this year. Best sequel I've read so far in 2020. I haven't actually read many sequels yet this year. I've kind of started a lot of things this year, but I haven't read many sequels. So I would have to say the second book in the David trilogy, and that is Kingdom of Copper. And yeah, that's one that I know a lot of people really love, and the third book is out now as well, so I'll be doing the third book for my July TBR as well. So yeah, that's my favourite sequel. The new release that I haven't read yet but I want to, so that actually I've already mentioned. I want to read the third book in the David trilogy, which is Empire of Gold, which is a bit of a chunker one. So that one, yeah, I'm going to be doing my July TBR. And I've been seeing a lot of booktubers talking about Mexican Gothic, so I really want to read that sometime soon. And the comic that I would really like to read is Die Volume 2. I read the first volume, I think it might have been either early this year or late last year, and really enjoyed that. I've got the first copy and I really want to get to reading the second one, and I'm just waiting for my local comic book store to get in my pre-order of that, so I'm looking forward to reading that one. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So obviously I'm doing the Storm Along 2020, and I really loved part 1, Way of Kings. And so I am really excited for Rhythm of War to come out, and obviously I'm going to be reading all those books up until November when Rhythm of War comes out, so that's going to be really good. Biggest disappointment, I would have to say Blood of Elves, which is the first book I believe in the Witcher series, and only because I listened to it on Audible and I really just there was this voice that the narrator did for one of the characters. It was really whiny and annoying, and I just couldn't handle it. And I think if I read that book rather than listen to it on Audible, I may have enjoyed a lot more, but it was a huge disappointment because I just really couldn't handle that particular voice. It just drove me crazy, so I didn't want to get any more of those, but I may actually read them a physical copy at some point. So that was probably my biggest disappointment. Biggest surprise. So for this one, I had trouble thinking of something, but the one that I came up with is a comic. So the biggest surprise I would have to say is the Stranger Things comic. I don't tend to have high expectations of comic books that have been adapted from the screen. Sometimes they don't really translate very well, but this was really, really good and I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved the TV series and the comic was just as good. So that was probably my biggest surprise. Favourite new author. So my favourite new author would definitely have to be John Gwynne, and I recently read Malice, which is the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. I loved it so much that I'm actually nearly finished reading Malice the second time round, which sounds weird because there's other books out which I haven't read the later books, but I'm reading the first one again. So I really enjoyed that. So yeah, he would probably have to be my favourite new author, definitely. Newest fictional crush. So earlier in the year I read Gideon the Ninth. So my newest fictional crush, I would have to say, would be Gideon. Definitely. I don't know, like I just love her sass, and she's not going to take anyone's crap. She's going to do what she wants, and I just love her character. She's just so much to read, so much fun to read, and so she would definitely be my fictional crush. Newest favourite character. So I would have to say Light Song from Warbreaker. I just loved him. He's basically this god, and he doesn't believe in himself, and he tries everyone around him to get them to not believe in him, and so he kind of just says what he wants and gives them a hard time, but they all end up really loving him, and I just really always enjoyed reading about his character when the chapters focused on him in Warbreaker. So he would have to be my favourite new character. Book that made me cry. I rarely cry reading books, and in fact, if I do find a book quite emotional, I struggle to kind of read it, and if I do read it through to the end, I need a huge break. I have a really big book hangover and not really interested in reading something sad again after I've read something like that. I just find that it really stays with me and I get in a bit of a funk emotionally, so I tend to avoid really emotional books. So I would have to say nothing for this year. Other years I have had certain books, but not this year. Book that made me happy. So earlier I did a book wrap up and I talked about this. It's a comic called Void Trip, and I would have to say that made me so happy. It was such a fun comic. It's about these couple in space. They're traveling through space and they're pretty tripped up on this space fruit, and they're always on a high, and it was just really, really lighthearted and fun, and I just smiled the whole way through reading that particular comic. So that would have to be my pick for what a book that's made me happy. most beautiful book so far that I've read this year would have to be a comic as well. I was actually going to pick something by Mark Lawrence, but there's a lot of not great things about him at the moment, so I don't want to pick that. But yeah, so Gnome and Omen, I just love the artwork for this particular comic. Every comic that comes out, the colouring is just wonderful. It just has this real fantasy feel to it, and I just think it's done really, really well, and every single issue I have loved. So that's probably that, and then a close second would be a new comic that I've just started getting. I've only got 3 issues, but this issue 3, I'll just give you a proper look. Like, that is just so awesome. I absolutely love that issue. It's just so good. And for me, quite often, artwork really is such a huge part of my enjoyment of reading comics. It's not everything, but there are quite a few comics that I enjoy that the artwork is just kind of okay, but if the artwork is really good, my enjoyment is just straight up here. So those probably, I would have to say, my most beautiful books. And what books do I need to read by the end of the year? So the books that I want to read by the end of the year, there's quite a few, but I would like to read the remaining Stormlight Archive books. So obviously I've only read part 1 of Way of Kings, so I want to read all the rest up to Rhythm of War when that comes out in November. And I want to read the other Faithful and the Fallen books by John Gwynne. And I also just started reading the Dresden Files, so I would like to read some more of those this year. They feel like they're kind of nice, short, in between books, give me something different to read rather than that really kind of epic fantasy. Like, obviously I've got the Stormlight Archives and Faithful and the Fallen. They're quite heavy, quite full-on fantasy, which I love, but I thought that the Dresden Files was a bit of a breather from those, and something that I might try and continue on reading throughout the year as well. So that is the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't done this particular tag, please feel free to do so. You're tagged. And again, thank you for watching, and if you liked this video, please hit the like button, and I will see you in the next video.